My topic is environment and sustainable growth, balancing competing interests in post-COVID Sri Lanka. I would be talking about how Sri Lanka is balancing sustainable growth and environment in its post-COVID situation. I will be focusing more on environment and how Sri Lanka has been grappling with the environmental impact and how Sri Lanka is focusing on development and then losing the balance between environment and growth. So failing to achieve sustainable growth is mainly reflected in the inability to control pollution and maintain environment-friendly practices. Sri Lanka, there is environmental degradation and deforestation happening in the name of development and forced to define fast-paced development. It's vital to accept that sustainable growth and environment sustainability are not competing interests. So this is what I'm going to discuss here. However, since the post-war development era, Sri Lanka trend had been to compromise on environment and mainly forest cover and do the development. If I define sustainable growth in socio-economic terms, it's the growth for a long period of time without exhausting the non-renewable resources and overly polluting the environment. In terms of the UN, it is the inclusive growth that encompasses the sustainable development goals by any economy or a country. So I am trying to see how Sri Lanka can actually achieve sustainable growth in a different manner, approaching sustainability differently than now how it does. So this paper will explore how post-COVID Sri Lanka will ensure environmental sustainability and how Sri Lanka will balance the seemingly competing interests of environment and sustainable socio-economic growth. In the long run, what is the best solution to balance these two competing interests for Sri Lanka? So, what hinders sustainable growth is the loss of jobs, which reflection of the instability of employment opportunities and systematic features of trade-off financial shocks, commodity prices shocks, and also environmental unsustainability. Sri Lanka today is having a problem because Sri Lanka targeted to be in the upper middle income country by this time. But now it has been gone down from upper middle income countries to lower middle income countries. Now the GDP had been declining from 5% in 2015 to 3.2% in 2018 and lower than that in 2019. And also because of COVID, the situation has worsened. As you can see, the economic impact of COVID-19 on Sri Lanka is very diverse. Dropping tourist arrival, disruption in micro and small and medium size enterprises, and also difficulty in fiscal balance and debt repayment, income loss of daily wage earners, that is the downfall of the informal sector, and also the uh, hit in the export sector due to lack of demand has caused Sri Lanka to uh, a great drawback. So, if I explain tourism, migrant workers, and exports, you can see that in my presentation, I have given the details that almost about 1.5 million people have impacted in tourism sector due to COVID impact. But also you have to remember that Sri Lanka is not just experiencing COVID impact. It's also going through the major security issue that was the April 2019 Easter Sunday terrorist attack. So Sri Lanka is not only facing it's a mix of non-traditional security threats and traditional security threats that Sri Lanka is facing. So if you take migrant workers families are really in great danger of survival, and it's really a challenge for the government. The government is looking for opportunities for upskilling and reskilling migrant workers who returned after COVID-19. And when it comes to export diversification has been need to be redirected because Sri Lanka, the target of Sri Lanka was not to diversify export in this manner, but what happened was COVID-19 changed the entire picture. So due to COVID-19, the Economic Export Development Board has revised target for 2020 as 13.4 billion USD, out of which 88% was achieved by November 2020. So, why sustainable growth is an issue and why environment is an issue for sustainable growth? If we take more than 40% of the country's population lives in poverty, so, major issue is income inequality. With existing poverty levels, income inequality has marked the emphasis, and Sri Lanka is facing a problem in providing social protection programs to much needed people. You can see in this um, diagram that most of the civil service persons and the senior citizens are getting the benefit of the life cycle schemes and social protection programs during the COVID-19. But the missing middle uh, middle income people are the most impacted. They are impacted more, but they are being less targeted for social protection programs. So what we cannot disregard in sustainable development and environmental sustainability is the sustainable development goals. UNDP set out sustainable development goals, and Sri Lanka is having a major issue achieving these goals. Only two had been achieved, that is quality education and climate action. All the rest of the sustainable development goals are either major challenges or significant challenges. But my topic today is the environmental unsustainability. That is, actually, I consider it as life on land. Life on land is a significant challenge to Sri Lanka. According to the Sustainable Development Goal assessment, it's a significant challenge to Sri Lanka. If you see life on land, the um, uh, red list under the species survival and also biodiversity are major challenges to Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, the state controls 82% of the land. So they have the control and they know how to manage the land. But the problem is lot of soil erosion, the use of land for cultivation by chain cultivation, and deforestation by also the not only the government development project but also the other infrastructure projects, and farmers have impacted more. So you can see how these alerts have been going on for how the forests are being destroyed, and when the forests are being destroyed, alerts are being kept coming for this GLAD alert report. And you can see high alerts are being indicated. So if I take civil society is actually more active and asking for stopping development projects that are hindering the environmental growth and environmental sustainability. This photo stop ecocide is actually considered the very vital point of departure for the uh, uh, environmental sustainability discourse. A lot of people are talking about genocide, and genocide Sri Lanka talk about ecocide. Ecocide is actually a problem in Sri Lanka. A lot of forests are being destroyed for development projects and other infrastructure, and also even people destroy it for chain cultivation, etc. As I have told you. So that's why there is lot of discourse and discussions about stopping ecocide, and also environmental sustainability is a problem with major landfills. Pollution control had not been done properly, and Sri Lanka is facing a big issue. However, for COVID-19 crisis, Sri Lanka had done a lot of responses and achieved far more better targets in economic sector. Sri Lanka had been able to support most of the uh, people who lost their income and lost their way forward during COVID-19. However, Sri Lanka's problem is the grappling difficulty in finding a balance between environmental sustainability and growth. So, what according to the understanding and assessment, looking at Sri Lanka's current scenario, it is better if Sri Lanka can have a model like inclusive green growth model, so that Sri Lanka can look at sustainable growth in a more environmental friendly manner, and include inclusive green growth as a strategy for sustainable development and environmental protection. So actually, I wanted to bring forth that idea that Sri Lanka, even though COVID hit and even though facing with environmental problems, Sri Lanka, if look at inclusive green growth as a strategy, Sri Lanka can actually benefit from a lot of benefits in achieving sustainable development goals and balancing environmental and growth process. Uh, that's what I want to bring out to the discussion. Thank you.